9.16 Lend-Lease and the Atlantic Charter. In March of 1941, the U.S. Congress, after much pressure from American President Franklin D. Roosevelt, passed the Lend-Lease Act, enabling the president to provide aid to any nation whose defense he believed to be vital to U.S. interests. This was a major piece of legislation, making the United States an indirect participant in World War II. The first recipient was Britain, but by the end of the war, 38 nations had received aid and materials amounting in value to some $50 billion. This support was gratefully received, but the more urgent aim of the British leader, Winston Churchill, was to involve the U.S. as a combatant. In July of 1941, Roosevelt invited Churchill to cross the Atlantic for a secret conference. Churchill's aim was to obtain the strongest possible public commitment of the president to the Allied cause. Roosevelt, on the other hand, had to tread a cautious line. He had been re-elected for a third term in November 1940, on the platform of keeping the USA out of Europe's war. Nevertheless, he was profoundly committed to an Allied victory. As a result of these conflicting requirements, the document emerging from the talks, published on August 14, 1941 as the Atlantic Charter, was a very general statement of the basic principles of democracy, free trade, and international law. But there was one phrase, strikingly different in tone, which served Churchill's purpose admirably. The two leaders stated that they would together seek a peace which would forever cast down the Nazi tyranny. With this made known to the world, there was no doubting where the U.S. stood. Churchill could press no further at this stage. In the end, it was an event entirely beyond his control which achieved his purpose, the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. However, the Allied leaders realized that Europe and the Nazis would have to take priority over the defeat of the Japanese. As early as the fall of 1940, when the Battle of Britain cast doubt on his invasion plans across the English Channel, Hitler's thoughts turned to an attack on his eastern ally, Stalin. Within his autobiography, Mein Kampf, Hitler specifically pointed to Russia as Lebensraum, or necessary living space for the German people. Lebensraum encompassed national expansion, as well as Nazi racial policy in its attempt to drive out non-German minorities from German-occupied regions. Hitler also saw the Soviet Union as a promoter of communism and Judaism. The war, now moving east, would be fierce and exhausting on all fronts.